Hello, good evening. Thank you very much. It's great to see so many of you here tonight supporting the Gateshead Soul and also continuing to give your backing to the football club. And really, it is just great to be here, isn't it? Having this kind of night, these kinds of conversation and the chance to speak to some of the people involved at the club this year. Before we speak to Mike, Michael and Ian, one or two bits of housekeeping, a few things to announce. We're going to split the night into two. So the first section, we're going to talk about the here and now, about the team this season, about the state of the club, things on and off the pitch. And then in the second half, maybe a little bit more general football chat, but also more about Gateshead. And in the second half, that's when we're going to read some of the questions that you've submitted. There should be some question sheets on each table and some pens, so if you haven't sent anything forwards, I've got a few here, I've got about 10, then if you think of something that we haven't asked or addressed during the first half of the night that you'd like to have answered or discussed, please send it up and we will put those points, observations, questions to Mike, Michael and Ian. Food will be served during the half-time break. The bar is open throughout. So feel free to keep going back and refilling your glasses. And the final thing, there is a raffle as well. Tickets available by the door, obviously where we all came in. I'm sure you've seen you're able to buy as many strips as you want. It's £1 a strip, okay? And that will be drawn at the end of the night. So let's just get on with it then. And firstly, say a big welcome to the player manager of Gateshead, Mike Williamson, player coach Michael Nelson, and assistant manager Ian Watson. Mike, will come to you to begin with. It's been quite an eventful period, and I think there's many of us in this room didn't think we would be here, didn't think there would be a club. A lot of change over the summer. Now you're a few games in after a really quite breathless start to the season, a packed August with fixtures. In terms of the team and the football side of things, just tell us how pleased you are with the progress you've made, given everything that's gone on recently.
Yeah, delighted. Like I say, yesterday was it was fantastic for the lads. They really deserved it. The effort they've been putting in from day one, really. It's just been it's been relentless for them, and there were certain times in the summer where, it was likewise. I was under that impression that there's a big possibility that there's, Gateshead is no longer be playing its football. So I am delighted, like everyone here, to be sat here, and especially as player manager in the position we're in.
It's obviously very full on, isn't it? For you, you've got a dual role. You've been playing, but you're a manager for the first time. Going back to the summer, and when you knew there was going to be a club, in terms of the management side of things, how much convincing did you take when it came to accepting that job and that position?
Zero. For me, it was the next step. It was a formality when the opportunity arose. It was a no-brainer for me, especially. I busted there, and he was very keen to take it on with me. And then we spoke to Nels, and he was on board. So for me, it's the next step as a player. It's something that I've always wanted to test myself at. And I'm fortunate to have got such a good team behind me as well.
And some of the things that you'll have come up against, some of the challenges you'll have faced on the coaching, management, and all the other stuff that you have to do with that will have been different to anything you've experienced before. What's been the toughest part of those extra responsibilities you have now you are in charge?
I wouldn't point out any different area. I think I'm lucky enough to have the best of both worlds. I still get to train, keep myself and my mind in the right frame of mind to go on and to perform myself. But then also I've got the freedom to look and change things where I feel appropriate. And as a player, I think any player will feel frustrated when they're in a team and they have to have tactics or formations or certain things pushed upon them that perhaps they don't agree with. But now, I've got the freedom with these guys to really sit down and have open conversations and rattle it about and go with what we think is best. So for me, it's just been a complete honour and pleasure to have this role, and I'm relishing it.
And Ian, you're back at the club, and I remember a few months ago you were quite vocal in letting us know your feelings about the situation that the club and the players and the fans found themselves in. From then to now, can you almost believe the way things, from the outside at least, look so settled and back on track?
No, to be honest, because there was a lot of times where we thought the club wasn't going to be here. The time you're talking about, when myself, Mike and Ben sat in the room with Joe Calla for a good sort of 3 to 4 hours, that kind of felt like the nails in the coffin, to be honest. It was a frustrating day for everyone, and I didn't think the club was going to come back from that point. Obviously everyone worked relentlessly in the summer, that was everyone in this room. So we're just over the moon to have it back to where it is now, and it's in a really good place. I'd probably say I've been here, so I think this is my 5th, 6th season now. It's in the best place it's been since I've been here. Obviously Richard was in as chairman when I first came in, but even then it didn't have the feel that it has now. It feels like it's just the start, and it's got years to come, and we're going to really push on. It's never had that feeling since I've been here, to be honest with you.
But you've been at and played at other non-league clubs in the Northeast over the time that you've had an association with Gateshead before giving all your time to Gateshead. Have you perhaps been surprised as well by the way that not just the people in this room but the fans, but the public as well now seem to be getting behind it? Because if you look at the attendances, and yesterday in particular, more than 1,000 home fans, it does seem as if people have taken notice of what happened, what could have happened, but also what's going on now.
If I'm honest, yeah, obviously everyone's pulled together massively. When you sort of look at the attendances at Gateshead, you used to get compared to the Blythes and the Darlingtons and the Yorks. You wouldn't probably compare the two. The 3 clubs normally had higher attendances. But now everyone's pulled the same direction. The fans have backed themselves with the attendances that they've had this season. And it has surprised us, to be honest, just how loved the club is, and it's really pleasing for everyone to see. I know it reads on the players and onto ourselves. When everyone gets behind the club, we all love it as well.
Michael, come to you now. Just tell us how you came to get involved with Gateshead this season.
Just through a mutual friend, really. Mike played with Russell Martin at Wickham, and I was at Norwich with Russ. Obviously Mike got in touch with Russ and sort of told him what was happening, that he was getting the role, and I think Russ put a good word in for me and gave me a reference. So I went and met Mike and Ian, and we had a chat, and that was it really. It was pretty natural, chance to get back home after sort of living away for a long time, and also been moving towards the coaching side for probably the last 3 seasons now, so it fitted in quite well, having that dual role.
In the summer, before you had the opportunity to come to Gateshead, had you decided on what you were going to do, whether it was carrying on playing or moving into coaching or trying to find a role like you've got now that gave you both?
I was probably 90% going to go into full-time coaching. I was applying for jobs, I had interviews, took several interviews over the summer at different league clubs across the country. But then obviously this opportunity came up, and like I say, it just felt natural. But obviously getting to the age I am, and the way sort of last season played out at Chesterfield, and the way I went into probably from January, I was more so of a coach than a player, and seeing that side of it, and was exposed to that and benefited from that. That was where I was looking to go into as soon as the season finished. But obviously this opportunity came along, and the rest is history.
Mike, talk a little bit about the football now, because on the pitch it has been going well, and after a summer of such upheaval, you did start the season well also, but in the last couple of weeks it does appear like things are really kicking on now. How would you assess the way it's gone?
Yeah, I think in terms of results, obviously we've picked up in the last few weeks, but I thought in the first cluster of games, we were drawing, and I felt we didn't. The points tally didn't really reflect the performances. I felt, with Darlington, the first 45 minutes especially, I thought we were very good. And we just couldn't quite get the second goal. Then a little lapse of concentration, you get punished, which is football. And then Bradford, was another frustrating one. So I felt, the process was getting there. We were getting better. The lads were certainly buying into it. They just, the honesty, the hard work, the diligence, the discipline that they've got has just been fantastic. Never questionable. But the more we go on, the more minutes we play, the more we grow in belief and as a group, and they're just getting closer and closer as time goes by. And I think you can see that, in the celebrations together. It's a real good group there. So I've been pleased for them.
And I'm sure many people in the room were there yesterday, but in a game that was 0-0 at the point that it was, to then suddenly go to 3-0, there's different ways to win a match, but how pleased were you with the way that the players were just obviously so clinical in the way that they seemed to get it wrapped up and get you the points with 3 goals?
Yeah, of course you're delighted with the with quick fire goals like it was. Even though it felt, we were saying at 65 minutes, it felt like the clock had stopped. Every time we looked over for about 20 minutes, it said 65 minutes. But it was one of them where we were waiting for this to happen. We knew the quality we had in the group. We see it every day at training, and we were saying, it's coming, and somebody's going to be on the end of it. And we had just a period in the game where it clicked, and we punished them, which was very pleasing, because we felt like up until that final third, we've been very good in the majority of our games, and we've had large periods where we've dominated teams, and we just haven't been, that clinical. To really finish them off and get a bit of breathing space. But what has been pleasing over, on the reflection of the season so far, is we've showed every area that a good team needs to be successful, that the resilience and determination, the physicality to match it, which you have to in this league. And then we've played good, free-flowing, forward-thinking football. So we've showed in large portions of games, all the different areas that we need to be successful, and the lads are starting to grow and put that all together, and I think we saw a lot of that yesterday.
And Ian, you probably know this league as well as anybody, given that you've played in it, you've been around it for the last few years. What do you think the main difference is between the National League North and the National League? Obviously it is a step below, but in terms of the quality, the type of teams that you come up against?
Obviously in the league above, in the Conference League, everyone's full-time. I think that makes a difference. I think teams are defensively more solid, they seem to have more shape and understanding of the game. Probably a little bit more ruthless as well. In the conference, I kind of learned quite quickly that teams will punish you if you make mistakes. Whereas in this league you might get a couple of chances, but I mean, this league's still a very hard league, and especially with the local derbies we've got now, it makes it that little bit harder as well. So there is a difference, but it's not a massive difference,
And we talked earlier about you coming back to the club, or effectively staying on at the club in your roles. You had to bring in a lot of new players, but you were able to keep a few as well. How important was that to keep hold of the likes, obviously, of players and characters like Scott Barrow, JJ O'Donnell, Greg Ollie, and one or two others?
Yeah, it was massive. Obviously, the frustrating thing towards the back end of last season was that Mike, myself, and Ben, we had all the lads in the office wanting to sign again for next season, but we had to stop them from doing that because we didn't know the state of the club, and we didn't want them to sign contracts and the club go under and then being stuck. So we thought it was right to do by the player and not tell them to sign until we found out what was happening with the club. So obviously, the longer it was going on, we were starting to think, well, John Mellish is signing here, Tom White's looking to go higher, how many players can we keep? But the fact that we were able to keep sort of Greg Ollie, Scott Barrow was absolutely massive for us, and it just keeps us ticking over from last season. We've still got them little bits from last season carried over into this season as well, so it was really good for us to keep them.
And Michael, give us your perspective on how it's gone. You've played in a number of the matches with a lot of obviously younger players, some of whom haven't played at the level that you have in your career, but how have you found it with obviously your extra responsibilities, your experience?
Yeah, it's been good. You know, we started sort of pretty early in pre-season, laying out what we wanted, foundations, the principles, and sort of the shape of the team as well. All the boys seem to buy into it. And I think one of the main things is, even through them first few games where we were getting draws, and there was probably a little bit of frustration amongst the fans. I know there was frustration amongst us. You know, people probably thinking, you know, should do this, should do that. You know, some people are like, they always want things to change, and we stuck to what we knew. We've been working on it all pre-season. We worked on it through the games. We stuck to the same shape. We stuck to the same principles, and I think now we're starting to reap the rewards. Everybody knows the individual jobs, and like I say, everyone's bought into it, which is the main thing.
And how much are you enjoying it? Still playing at a good standard against some good teams and good players, some perhaps you've come up against before?
Yeah, I enjoy the games. Don't really enjoy the morning after, but I'm enjoying the games. But it makes it a lot easier when you get the results. But yeah, it's going well. There's some good teams and some good individual players in the league, and there's also some of the managers are very experienced. You know, they've been around. Russell Slade's just went in at Hereford, an experienced manager. There's a lot of quality in the league, in the coaching side and in the playing side of it as well.
Just picking up on something Michael said there, Mike, about sticking to your plan and your approach and believing in it because you know that it's right and you've got the quality and you've been working on something. How testing is it though? You talked about those early games when you did play well but perhaps didn't get the results that you felt that you should, because there will be a temptation, I'm sure, for some to change it, and there will have been some fans in here, I'm sure, who were saying perhaps there could be a rethink, things could change, but you stuck to what you wanted.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's got their ideas of how the game should be played, but you know, first and foremost, I'm an advocate of football that wins games. There's no two ways about it. You know, however that is. So whether we have to go route one for a game because we believe that that's the best tactical way to approach the game, or whether we want to play out from the back and mix it up, it's effective football at the end of the day. So there's no point sitting here and banging the same drum if we're losing week in, week out. But the bottom line is now I've touched on it. Then the only thing that was probably potentially getting the better of us was the frustration. Was the lads didn't feel like they were getting the rewards that we deserved. So some of the players might have felt as a desire to try and go outside of the blueprint to try and change things themselves, but they never did. They stuck with it, and even there's certain times after games I let the lads speak and hear their thoughts, and they were pretty much reiterating our thoughts here. So it was just echoing the fact that we need to be diligent in our belief systems because we know the talent we've got in the group, and if we stick to everybody pushing in the same direction, that it will pay off, and it has proved up until now.
And the squad that you've got currently, how happy are you with it, or are you looking still? Are your eyes open to maybe one or two other things, other players that could come in to add to what you've got, or if you have to go on for a couple of months like this, would that be okay?
I think the reality is, is the hard light of day is you're always looking to improve, regardless of whether you're top of the league or wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you're always looking to get better, and whether it's the small detail on the training field, personnel, or even the self-reflection, it's how can we get better, and no day, 2 days are the same. So yeah, for sure, our eyes are always open and looking to build, and I think that's healthy for the group, because if a group feel as though there's nothing on the horizon, then it can get stagnant, and players don't feel the need to perform every day. So I believe that in the group it's healthy to have competition for places, and knowing that we're always looking to improve in every area.
Ian, this one for you probably. When Mike's on the pitch, when he's playing, how does it work in terms of tactical decisions, changes, tweaks, or getting messages and information across to players and from Mike over to you, and other players on the bench?
Obviously when Nelson's off and Mike's on, me and Nelson will decide things or talk about things, and Mike's always shouting information across to us. If he wants to change something and he's adamant that he wants to change it, he'll let us know. Ultimately, when me and Nelson are there, we kind of have to make the decision whether we think it's right to bring someone on or change something. To be honest with you, because we're only sort of 9-10 games in, there hasn't been a time where I'm thinking about where it's been like, we need to do this or we need to do that. It's all went pretty smoothly, touch wood, so we haven't really come across that yet too much.
Just want to remind you that if you want to submit a question for later, we've got the question sheets on the table. I've got quite a few here. I'm sure there are some football things and maybe some stuff relating to what happened behind the scenes in the last year or so that we haven't addressed yet that maybe you want to ask. Please feel free. Nothing's off limits. So send up anything that you can, and we will get to those in the second half. Just a little bit more chat about the team this season and how things are going. I mentioned, and Mike and Ian probably both answer this as well, about some of the players that you've kept. And when you're trying to put together a squad and almost start and build a club up from scratch, to be able to get the quality that you had, some of it back. We've mentioned Scott Barrow, Greg Ollie, for instance, who may have had offers or certainly interest from higher up. They're dropping down a level, but they're still playing for the same club. How difficult to sell was it to get them to recommit to Gateshead? You can have a go in a minute.
It's a natural instinct to want to play the highest level you can, to be the best version of you as you can. But things that we went through last season, and obviously I'd only experienced that season with Gateshead. It brings people together, and I think a lot of the players that have come back have kind of grown an affinity with the club, and that is very rare in football because there's a lot of mercenaries and it's all about money and agents and variables that people don't really see. But there's I think the lads can see it. There's a lot of players on that pitch that actually really do love the club, and there were players that had better offers, but it didn't stack up when it come to Gateshead as a football club. So we were over the moon to get some of the lads back, because it was difficult. In the summer we were sat there, I think we had a notepad, literally. We had a name of a list of 30 players, and we were going from like wildfire because it was difficult, because all of the press from the season before, we're having lots of lads with questions, even parents saying that I'd stay away and things like that, because it was all from the press of the previous regime. So we had to build that, and credit to the supporters group and to the people that came in and took over the club, because you could just see from day one that they just got the club at their heart, and they're only going to do things for the best interest of the football club, which again is very rare in football. I've had my fair share of football clubs, not as many as Nels, but I've had my fair share, and it's a business and it's ruthless. But where I do see that there's a couple of clubs that I've been at that are kind of family run, and you do feel a togetherness and a passion that breeds throughout in all different areas, and this club's got it in abundance.
How many clubs have you had, Mike, now?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Less or more than Davidix?
I've had a few, but they're racked up. Whether this will be my last one or playing wise, I don't know. We'll see.
As someone who's played all over the country, played in Scotland as well, obviously at higher levels, there's been quite a few players that have come through Gateshead in maybe the last 5, 6, probably even 10 years that have gone on to those leagues. Marcus Mellison's probably the most high-profile example recently, but even Tom White, who's now at Blackburn, John Mellish in League 2 with Carlisle. There's players like Paul Dummett, George Honeyman, Lyndon Gooch, played for Newcastle and Sunderland, that had loan spells, James Tavernier, who's at Rangers. Talking about having to convince parents maybe and get people to trust Gateshead again, but how important is it for you as a player and a coach when you've got young teammates to be able to say, well look, these lads are the example that you can follow. This club's done it, so if you do it right, this is obviously a good place for you.
Yeah, I think obviously the fact that a club has a history of doing that is good, but I think a lot of the people who we spoke to in the summer and stuff like, you haven't got to just sell the club, you've got to sell yourself. The club can be a great club, but if you're coming in to a great club with a manager and a coaching staff who aren't going to develop you as you want to be developed, then it doesn't matter how good the club is, you won't develop and you won't move on. So it's got to be both sides of it. I think the club obviously is a good club, it does have a history of that, but I think the people who came in the office and sat down and spoke to sort of believed in what Mike and me and Ian were sort of trying to sell them, and how we wanted to try and bring them forward. I think that was a real big issue on trying to get people through the door as well.
Ian, this one for you, and then a couple more for Mike, and then maybe we'll have a break. The bar remains open, by the way, and it'll be open all night. The relationship that you have to have with the people running the club is so important, and we don't have to look at last season, to find illustration why that can lead to major problems if there's all sorts going on and bad communication, etc., etc. But how does it work now with you, with Neil, who's the chairman, Trevor, Alicia, who's still behind the scenes, and quite a few other people as well, working hard on behalf of the club?
Yeah, well, we get on with them all unbelievable, to be fair. Obviously, they're all very different people, but since they've come in, they've been brilliant with us. We've had sort of no cross wires or anything like that. It's sort of been a real pleasure every year to come into. Trevor, when we got beat 3-0, Trevor came in, he just lifted the whole office up. Obviously, we were a bit down. He's a very happy person, he lifted everyone up. Neil, the same, very professional. Obviously, he's just done a lot of work behind the scenes as well. And we all understand how much work they've done. So yeah, we get on with them really well, and it's very important. Probably didn't realise how important it was until last year happened. But this is like chalk and cheese now, from where we were last year with the previous owners and our relationship with them, to where we are now with these owners. Like, we'll chat about everything and everything with them, so it's a totally different place, and it's really enjoyable.
Mike, just generally speaking, targets for this season, were any set for you before the campaign began? Because I'm thinking of all of the upheaval that we had at the club, it may perhaps seem a little bit unfair to tell you what the objectives were, but I'm sure you had some ideas yourself. But was a specific target set for this year?
No, not flat out. I think everybody knows, whether spoken about or not, we all know where we want this football club to be, and it's a work in progress. But on reflection, obviously, the gratitude that everybody feels to have a football club in the first place is unbelievable, and to build from a blank sheet, essentially a brand new squad. It's not going to be plain sailing. Every day is a school day, and we're learning, and we're growing and we're evolving. And to get a group of players of the quality we had was, it's no small feat. And these two guys were working relentless for that, with their kind of connections and the diligence that they've spent on kind of looking at the players and trying to find out geographical kind of situations, family situations, financial situations. It was really a mammoth task. So in terms of actual targets, there wasn't any spoke about, but we know where we want to be, and we know where we're pushing, and every day we're just trying to improve, like I say, and we hope that everyone can see that in terms of the performances. But it's still very early days, and there's still huge ups and downs to go.
So last couple of questions before we have a break and get the food. You've got the FA Cup coming up as well, and being in the National League North, you have to come in a couple of rounds earlier than as a National League club. Financially, that could be really significant for you this season. I know the prize money is not so great until you get a little bit further in, hopefully, but given obviously budget constraints, FA Cup run would be fantastic, wouldn't it? And it's something that the club had a few years ago, but perhaps in recent history it hasn't happened too many times.
Yeah, sure. I mean, taking away all the the different parts to what a good cup run would bring, for me and the guys sitting next to me, we're all about the winning mentality. You've got to make winning a habit, and we talk about that whether we're doing a skills game, a passing drill, five-a-side, whatever it is, or we're in the playoff final. Winning is a habit, and over the years, these guys will tell you that when you build that momentum and you ingrain that habit into the forefront of your mind, it becomes just the human nature to go out there and want to win. So regardless of the competition, yeah, it would be fantastic financially and for the fans and things like that, but for me it's just about breeding that mentality and making sure that we go out there with the best team we can and the best position to win the game.
And the last question I wanted to ask you in this section, National League North, there's less travelling this year, and you did a lot of travelling on the day last season down to the south, and everywhere, apart from Hartlepool last year, was a long way from Gateshead. How much better is it for you, hopefully just for one season before going up, to not have to travel so much? Because when you're on a coach into the early hours of the morning, it can't be good for players, especially when you have so many midweek games and it's Saturday, Tuesday throughout the season.
Yeah. Well, speaking a couple of days before quite a long trip on Tuesday that we'll be approaching. But yeah, I think when we first came in and Ben took over, we had Aldershot, we had Dover, and getting out there, we were trying to be upbeat. Don't make excuses. We're here now. Make sure we're on that bus or on the train, whatever it may be, with the 3 points. But Busty was saying to me, "How are you feeling?" And I was, "Yeah, great." And then after the game, you know what I mean? I felt awful in the warm-up. I couldn't move. I felt sluggish. But before the game, like I say, we echo to the lads. It's no excuse mentality. We turn up and you approach it, and we actually, we got some good results from it. But yeah, there is no getting away from it. It does take its toll physically and mentally. Even this Tuesday, we're going to be getting back at the early hours of Wednesday morning. But it's part and parcel. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love the job and I love the opportunity, and I'm just relishing, enjoying every moment of it.
For now, thank you very much, Mike Williamson, Michael Nelson and Ian Watson. Another reminder, because we want to hear from you as well. We'll probably throw it open to the floor so you can put your hands up later also, but if you don't want to do that and you want to write something and send it up, please do, because we have got a bit of time to go through as many questions, and as I say, I'm sure there's something that we haven't touched in this first half. But for now, thank you very much, and go back to the bar, get some food, and we'll talk to you again in about 15 minutes. Thank you.